Co-constructed identity. Reflections on how EAP learning materials can enhance the transition and development of the EAP student and the EAP practitioner. Presenters are Daniel Devane and Sharon Mcilroy, both are lecturers at the International Study and Language Institute at the University of Reading. Our introduction consists of the following components: theoretical background information and aim, context, definition of the EAP practitioner for this reflection, definition of materials for this reflection, and a presentation outline. We then reflect on our experience and draw links between that and aspects of co-constructed identity. It is intended this will help you better understand how we are defining the practitioner and materials within the specific context of our reflection.
Understanding how individuals shift between their self-concept as an individual to their self-identification as a member of a group, sharing an identity is invaluable in any professional context. McCune points out that little is known about how academics and teaching-intensive roles in research-intensive universities maintain their identities and care for teaching. Understanding what encourages or restrains transformative learning and teaching lies at the heart of insight into how best to support the teaching-intensive practitioner, teacher, educator. Therefore, from a viewpoint of identity as something we do and continually become or transition to, through the presentation and representation of the self within social, professional, and institutional contexts, this presentation sets out to reflect on how practitioner, teacher, educator development, transition and transformation in any role is continually ongoing and can be supported by using materials as a specific tool. We are not presenting how formal knowledge or experience may be gained, as it has already been established that there are numerous and varied routes into EAP, and practitioners' backgrounds, knowledge and skills, whilst rich and relevant, cannot encompass everything the EAP practitioner could, or even is expected to know, reinforcing that development is a key part of any role. Instead, we intend to show how tacit knowledge in situ can be obtained and the transition into the EAP role further established whilst in an EAP role. Transition is a given phenomenon, as it is also recognised that EAP practitioner professionalism develops with time. All time for transition and development, irrespective of length, is therefore of value. We see this experience for the practitioner as one of co-identity construction, in that both the practitioner, educators, and student learners' professional academic identity are encouraged to evolve, not in isolation, but rather synchronously through both the delivery of the content via the materials and the accomplishment of the assignments and the intended learning outcomes. We intend to show how a sense of shared community, values and practice further unite staff and students, and how this is made explicit in our roles as module conveners to the EAP practitioner and in turn to the students.
Our reflections spring from our most recent professional experiences of module convening, and also from exploration of professional academic identity development as part of Sharon's doctoral research. The module conveners are responsible for the teaching materials, assessment, marking, and quality assurance of the modules, which encompass leading and supporting a team of 20+ teachers over a 6-week period in summer 2022. We convened parallel undergraduate and postgraduate modules that focus on broadening an awareness of wider university spoken and written genres, practices, and skills. Both modules therefore contained formative and summative oral and written assessments, requiring students produce a reflective oral presentation, a critical review for the postgraduate module, and a case study report for the undergraduate module. These oral and written genres were new to almost all of the students on the modules. It's important to note that although perhaps not always explicitly considered or recognised, the role of materials as a tool for co-identity construction, development and transformation is not unique alone to these modules. They are simply our most recent completed experience on which to reflect. Nevertheless, they have allowed us to explicitly reflect on a previously more implicit transformative function of materials.
For the context of this presentation, we refer to the EAP teacher as the EAP practitioner. Alike Charles and Pequarari, we recognise the role extends beyond that of classroom teaching to involvement with materials development, scholarship and research. We take a wide view of professional academic identity development of the teaching intensive practitioner and use practitioner as a term to cover all members of a community of practice, encompassing its wide breadth of backgrounds, qualifications, and lived and professional experiences.
We were both members of the curriculum development team for these modules and took part in the development, compilation and final curation of materials, both before and during the modules. We will refer to learning materials as being both the practitioner-facing materials, usually in relation to the operational requirements of the module, and the student-facing learning materials, materials facilitating the learning and development of academic language and literacies in relation to the module's intended learning outcomes. Materials have a co-construction, dual or even multifaceted purpose and function, through which we meet the requirements and expectations in our roles as module conveners for both key stakeholders, supporting and developing the practitioner learner, who in turn supports and develops the student learner. The materials allow both to achieve greater autonomy in developing their conceptual understanding and practical application of the required academic skills, practices and genres for the modules, whilst, in addition, allowing the practitioner to develop and meet the operational requirements of the module and the role. Therefore, for our reflection, we've included the following shown on the slide as the module materials. To expand on some points further, point 2 includes lesson context and frame, extension tasks, and notes for differentiation. Both materials for 3 and 4 were delivered to the student and the practitioner. Support videos and guides include information on how to locate specific tasks, complete tasks, and helped both learner and practitioner build autonomy. Point 6, these were posted on specific module material channels. And for point 7, this allowed open communication, availability, and a forum for question and clarification, a form of concept checking. Use of the listed materials, operationally and developmentally for the practitioner, loosely followed an approach of PPP, present, practice, produce. In terms of present, the material, skills and tasks were presented to the practitioner in the learning materials, weekly meetings, via Teams posts, or in induction and standardization sessions. The practitioner is given space to practice and concept check to reinforce understanding and/or development, supported with videos or instructional guides, or one-to-one question and answer and support sessions within a developing community of practice. In terms of produce, it's more reproduce. The practitioner can reproduce their understanding to lead and guide the students through the lessons, tasks, and the materials as they work to complete assessments and achieve the module's learning outcomes.
We take a wide view of the professional academic identity of the teaching intensive practitioner in relation to developing professional identity, the role of the role model, gaining expertise, the role of technology, developmental and guidance opportunities, before narrowing our focus to what is directly relevant to our experiences of leading a team of sessional summer teachers in relation to developing greater autonomy, conceptual understanding, and meeting learning outcomes. Finally, we will outline the observations made in relation to co-identity construction and the development and the transition of the EAP practitioner. Within an occupational context, Cascio and Gasker define professional identity as a self-concept or image composed of a range of skills and a body of knowledge, integrated with acknowledging and embracing the values ascribed to a specific profession. Professional identity, then, bonds members of a profession in a sense of shared purpose. Values and purpose are intricately intertwined, as it is through values that we achieve purpose, and values are at the core of an individual's identity. At the core of professional academic identity is academic integrity and its related values, purpose, and academic conventions. The first responsibility of the teacher is to establish what academic integrity is and make clear the related values and purpose. In Campion's 2016 investigation of those newly established in EAP delivery, this specialised knowledge and familiarity with academic conventions was noted as one of the greatest challenges. Davies observes that EAP practitioners foster the relationship between student and teacher through an establishment of the values and purpose that underpin academic integrity, fundamental to professional academic identity. Therefore, this tells us that professional identity bonds members of a group through shared purpose and values at its basis. Practitioners can then help students to build an understanding of these values and purpose. Through understanding and acceptance of the values and purpose, the new member adopts the related practice and further builds their identity.
This relationship extends across the university, uniting student and practitioners, whether it's teaching staff and/or researcher. Moreover, as conveners, not only did we revisit academic values, asserting academic integrity as the foundational principles underlining EAP practice and induction, building and developing conceptual understanding, but we actively sought to build a sense of community, belonging, and identification for our practitioners. This was achieved via a variety of means: in meetings, in-person and online informal communication channels, peer support and collaboration, autonomous self-directed materials, and encouragement that this should be mirrored within the classes via, for example, group work, group discussions, Q&A, collaboration, etc. Often these suggestions were integrated within the student-facing materials, both in the live set lessons and guided independent study tasks, or within the teaching notes for delivery suggestions, guidance, and differentiation. These examples, specifically regular meetings, open channels of communication, and peer support, helped in purposefully building a sense of trust through approachability and timely responses for both teachers and students. This was further reflected in the scaled response student feedback option, I feel part of the academic community.
Houston et al. Suggest that teaching academics should align choice in their professional identity development with either their teaching community, the department, colleagues or teams, or with the institution more widely in continual reinvention. Ibarra proposes carefully locating and adopting a role model as an initial action required for identity development. This is echoed in Bandura's social cognitive theory. Through observation and social relations, one may be afforded opportunity to build experience and self-efficacy, evolving into a fully recognized member in a community of practice rather than belonging to the periphery. Furthermore, role models and collegial support through professional team groups in which tacit knowledge can be recognised and exchanged reinforces the value of practice for teaching academics. Therefore, professional development and transition to EAP practitioner is best facilitated by a strong institutional ethos of benchmarking good practice and enabling guidance by example, either modelled by the MC or via a teacher buddy system.
The module convener is not so much that of role model, but does act as a guide through the course and the materials. Both module conveners have either previously taught on the module or played a central role in the module's mapping and development, and so understand various challenges that may arise and can advise accordingly. The module convener ensures standards are maintained whilst drawing on practitioner skills and individual expertise. In this way, module conveners ensure inclusion rather than exclusion or EAP peripheral isolation as a result of real or imagined differences in experience, knowledge, employment, or contractual status. We also further build on the concept of a community of practice. New or newer practitioners were buddied up with returning practitioners. All practitioners were given localized responsibilities. For example, practitioners with confident IT skills help support colleagues in classes near them with technological specific problems or tasks, such as with the recording of oral presentations. In our modular team meetings and chat channels, practitioners were encouraged to make contact. Even when in class or during breaks, teachers could contact module conveners online for clarification if needed. Informal drop-in observations, as well as more formal observations, took place in order to aid development and transition at programme rather than module level. However, a marker of success in creating a sense of community was that by the middle of the module, practitioners were inviting the module convener to drop in and observe classes in order to provide suggestions and guidance to assist with their ongoing developmental transformation. A further example of building on tactic knowledge, the oral presentation was modelled by one practitioner from the module, who was also involved in the creation of the materials. This was recorded and served as both an example for practitioners in induction and in student-facing materials. In the video, the practitioner reflected on their own experience of learning and developing scholarship, extending the concept of identity development as part of every academic's journey. Thus, this practitioner becomes the role model for the students, in addition to being an exemplar of the intended learning and assessment outcome.
Fitzpatrick et al. Looked at issues relating to developing teacher expertise and outlined 4 key areas or themes, those being 1. EAP, specific knowledge and training, 2. Qualifications, 3. Insight and understanding of what students are asked to do, and 4. Observations of peers. Point 4 is part of the wider quality assurance processes at programme rather than modular level, which we do not intend to address again here. Point 2 can vary greatly and is something usually addressed and considered in formalised recruitment and selection processes, which we do not intend to address here. Though it is worth mentioning, the wide and varied backgrounds and qualifications of the EAP practitioner mirrors that of the EAP student cohort and offers a diverse knowledge base that enriches any team or department. In relation to point 1, EAP knowledge and training, the BALEAP Competencies Framework and the more recent TEAP scheme offer a professional pathway for EAP practitioner development. However, professional EAP training still remains undefined, meaning that for many, it's unclear which qualifications or experience best support EAP professional academic development. Although we acknowledge TEAP training is invaluable, it is more formalised and too lengthy for practical application and incorporation in its entirety in a 6-week module for sessional staff. Nevertheless, practitioners' experiences, observations, and reflection of their teaching from these modules can contribute to a formal TEAP application. Furthermore, point 1 is implicit in the EAP student-facing materials and are apparent in our practitioner-facing materials too. Therefore, our reflections here specifically focus on point 3.
We identified where teachers needed varying degrees of support, both before and during the module. Support was provided through, as mentioned, teacher notes, Teams lesson posts, weekly meetings, but also via the inclusion of specific tasks in the materials, such as queries related to Turnitin and, for the postgraduate module, databases. This resulted in the production and inclusion of instructional videos and written guides. Use of Turnitin, interpretation of similarity reports, the use of online databases and catalogues provided varying degrees of challenge for practitioners. At postgraduate level, there may have been a wider variety of student disciplines in each class, all consulting very differing databases in order to find literature for their critical review. Practitioners subsequently expressed greater confidence in supporting students' database use after reviewing instruction guides or liaising with colleagues and/or conveners, some even gaining added experience in locating specific features, such as hyperlinks, citations, and DOIs. They were able to then confidently communicate this to the students, who, in turn, were better placed to search for, locate, read, evaluate, and critique discipline-specific academic literature. In relation to Turnitin, practitioners questioned the implications of similarity and whether it indicated poor academic practice or academic misconduct. Many were concerned by the similarity report, although on closer inspection, this was often similarity brought about through legitimate means, for example, use of subject-specific vocabulary or target language of the genre, as opposed to poor rephrasing. Guided instructional materials for practitioners help develop their expertise and understanding, and in turn, they were then better placed to help guide and instruct the students in the development of their understanding and expertise of the required academic skills and practices for the genre and fulfillment of the module's learning outcomes. Our insight also arises from the operational structures of the module, for example, insight via standardization sessions for assignment submissions. Prior to each standardization, practitioners were given samples to mark against the rubric. In the live session, they then conferred with colleagues before either aligning with what was benchmarked, or for modules with fewer teaching groups, for example, the undergraduate module, practitioners mediated together with the module convener until agreed against a very clear rubric. This allowed practitioners to feel justified and confident in their application of and marking against the rubric, reassuring and guiding them of the standardized approach being taken for uniformity and conformity equally across the cohort. The moderation and standardization processes further help to confirm or guide them in their application and understanding of the rubric. Guidance for these sessions were given first orally, in person during the sessions, but also in written and video form for practitioners to refer back to foster autonomy, as well as assist in building their confidence development and transition. This was again further complemented by the open channels of communication mentioned earlier. Furthermore, in the module inductions, practitioners at both undergraduate and postgraduate level were asked to complete analysis tasks that students would need to complete in subsequent lessons. This put practitioners in the place of the students and helped to ensure they were experiencing and reflecting on what they would themselves be delivering, as well as developing a clear or clearer conceptual understanding of the module, its outcomes, and its student-facing materials. Module convener supported and guided practitioners in the induction before they would support and guide the students.
As briefly mentioned, The role of technology can be a barrier to transition and transformation for both student and practitioner. It often sits both outside and within EAP-specific skills and understanding. As emphasised by Leibowitz et al., a sense of teacher competence in abilities, such as technical skills and capacities related to teaching, is important to academic teacher identity. Therefore, it cannot and should not be overlooked. It clearly is a transitional and developmental issue. At a programme level, practitioners were fully supported by the Assistant Programme Director, who offered individual technical support or even face-to-face help if needed. Practitioners ultimately learnt and developed technical skills through the delivery of the module as they were inbuilt, irrespective of whether the classes were delivered online or in person. For example, this included the use of databases, the production of PPT slides, online submission of assessments, and recordings of summative oral assessments. The collaboration and community sense amongst the leadership team, both at programme and module level, shown via the list of materials outlined earlier, was therefore ultimately emulated by practitioners as the modules progressed. So, for example, there was sharing of additional materials such as review quizzes, checklists, and helping each other in their locale with the tech. This reinforced a sense of support, community, practice, and collaboration taking effect and hold within the team. Van Lankveld et al. Conclude that their review of teacher identity development indicates the necessity to support the cultivation of strategies that will help strengthen teacher academic identity. They propose that staff development activities focusing on teacher agency and identity should incorporate such activities to empower both the individual and the collective and support teacher agency in their roles. Teachers bring their academic backgrounds to their practice and are selected against the BALEAP Competency Framework, but may not hold a full-time EAP role. The 6-week module may not allow for a formalised or comprehensive development programme, but for many it provides the opportunity for role change, which also brings greater teacher agency. While work role change undoubtedly brings uncertainty from which insecurities and psychological anxiety can emerge, through role change, possible emerging opportunities offer possibility for reinvention, self-efficacy, and professional identity evolution and agency.
Teachers' knowledge and skills, and ultimately agency, are further enhanced through delivery of the modules. The role offers them the opportunity to further their knowledge of genres, while also allowing for an understanding of how research, analysis, and evaluation is carried out and presented in varying fields and genres. Through the materials and tasks, practitioners on the postgraduate module, along with students, become acquainted with the methodology used, its analysis, presentation, and delivery. Through the critical reviews, practitioners have a clear structure against which they can check if students have completed the required stages, irrespective of their future discipline. They do not require specialist knowledge to be able to do this. Likewise, in the undergraduate module, practitioners may come to their teaching role with limited understanding of the academic knowledge areas on which the undergraduate module is based, those being recruitment and selection, and diversity and inclusion. The materials were created assuming students will enter with zero or limited knowledge of these areas. Therefore, everything the student needs for developmental success is provided within the module. This also allows practitioners to be well informed, whilst also learning and developing alongside the student, albeit 1 or 2 steps ahead. This is all clearly indicative of co-identity construction.
In relation to education, Sharon proposes that reflection on professional practice must encompass reflection in and on action, thus merging both practice and theory in order to sustain continual professional development. By reflecting on these modules and their materials, we recognise they offer practitioners the opportunity to develop and transition as EAP practitioners, irrespective of their existing level of skill and expertise, qualifications, or experiential background. They allow for development and transition in multiple capacities in relation to their professional identity in their role, whether it be new or existing. They gain expertise in understanding, skills, and practice, developing their confidence and competencies with technology or by being guided or guiding others in a growing shared community of practice. Each aspect of identity construction can have learning materials, whether that be student-facing or practitioner-facing. At their core, they operate in tandem. Critical self-reflection is a necessary component enabling a restructuring of past life experience with present social and professional context and learning. Therefore, the modules and materials and their delivery and use should undergo a process of review in order to ensure their continuing relevance. Although the module convener and the module materials play a role in identity construction, their function and their role is not immune from development, transition, and transformation itself. Furthermore, to extend transformation beyond the boundaries of the course, practitioners are asked to reflect and feedback on their experiences for both self and course evaluation, as the process and experience facilitates reconceptualization of both professional present and possible future. In summary, materials met practitioners' needs for teaching and development and propelled their self-conceptualization and professional identity development as EAP practitioners. Overall, the focused use of materials, which offer greater autonomy and conceptual understanding, can meaningfully contribute to development of the academic identity of key stakeholders, both practitioner and student, in a mode of co-construction and shared understanding, as well as complementing existing competency structures and facilitate effective practitioner and student outcomes. Thank you for listening.
You can find our references on this slide and the following 2 slides.